want you to understand, this piece of mahogany, this case, and this buck knife, see, they don't make sense. As some of you know, I did a video where I went to the largest guitar factory in the world, which is Cort in Indonesia, and showed you the factory in a way that no one's ever been allowed to show you before. Today, I'm going to be doing that same thing with Taylor guitars in California, and I'm going to show you and this industry something that is almost impossible to believe. Before we started the tour, there was a bin full of wood blocks. Now, I've seen lots of wood scraps in bins all over factories around the world. It's very common. This is just the extra pieces of wood. However, they took a second just to casually mention that these blocks are available if the employees want to take them home, and locals can even come and take them for free. In fact, they even have a woman who takes them and makes bee houses out of them. And what's interesting about this is the end piece to the 4x4 boards they use to make the guitar necks. Even though they make the guitar necks out of 3 pieces of wood, they use it from the same board.
So these are future necks. So at this point, we've got what will be the 3 components of a guitar neck. We've got the neck shaft, we've got the peg head piece right here, and then we've got the heel blocks down here. Now, each of those respective pieces for a given neck are cut from the same original blank. So everything is going to match in terms of grain orientation, color, etc. But by doing it 3-piece, there are a couple things we can do. First of all, it's structurally a stronger neck. So we've more than doubled the strength of the neck.
This is pretty much the only piece of leftover wood they have. See, they use the dust and they collect it up in silos, and somebody comes and collects it and uses it for mulch, so it's not wasted. And when we were really getting involved with this deep dive, I was like, I saw something and I was like, what is this? And it was this piece of wood right here. This is a piece of ebony. This is a piece of ebony on this buck knife that's made in the USA. And this piece of ebony is actually made at the Taylor factory so that they can make this beautiful tool that people use for hunting, fishing, camping, you name it. This is something really unique when I saw that they were trying to find a purpose for every single piece of raw material that was coming in their facility. In fact, to quote them,
everything but the oink, right, as they say. So we do that, and so we're always looking at other partners we can work with to help, get some use out of it.
Then I started learning other things, like they make their own guitar cases in the Tecate factory in Mexico. It's a beautiful case. I want to show you this case. Some of you may be familiar with it. It's a Taylor case, right? Beautifully done. This is made in Tecate, Mexico. If we open it up, very nice quality, done very beautifully, except for this case isn't a Taylor case. This case is a Collings case. Collings made in Austin, Texas. Collings is a very high-end company, and of course it makes sense. Why not use a quality case made by a company like Taylor Guitars? I want you to understand, this piece of mahogany, this case, and this buck knife, see, they don't make sense. There's a part of the puzzle that was missing and I just wasn't understanding it. When I say that, this is a lot of effort. Companies have become extremely wasteful, and companies really don't seem to focus like this. There's got to be a reason, because even if you want to do the right thing, there is the bottom line, and this is a tough industry with tight margins and disasters around every corner. So the question is, why would a company focus so hard on trying to make sure that they take care of all the products, in other words, take care of all the materials, see opportunities to help other companies and make money? And I know what you're thinking. Well, of course, they're going to try to make money, but you got to understand, one of the problems that's happening in today's age with having factories, owning factories, is that factories are turning into liabilities. Here's why. When orders drop, which sometimes they do, when you have a factory, you have employees, you have overhead, you have a mortgage or rent, you have electricity, you have utilities, you have all the costs that a lot of us understand and a lot of costs some of us can't even comprehend. When you outsource those problems to another factory, 2 things happen. You get to take part into lower labor rates, but more importantly, when the orders don't come in, you don't have to worry about whether or not those employees are working. You just order less. And if that causes them to close, well, then you'll just find another factory. So I learned at Taylor Guitars, they have no interest in outsourcing their instruments to a third party. They want to build all their guitars themselves in the 2 factories, and they want to treat those resources with responsibility and care, and also do right by the employees. But the question is, what happens if Taylor Guitars gets sold? Taylor Guitars was sold. A lot of us don't know that. In 2020, the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, Taylor Guitars sold the company and put it in what's called an ESOP program. Some of you are familiar with this because you might be lucky enough to have a job that has a program like this. Essentially, it's a trust. They sell the company to a trust, and then all the employees become owners or part owners or have equity, I should say better yet, equity in the company. When I asked them about this, I said, okay, so in the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, you sell the company and you become an ESOP. In other words, employees now have equity. And that doesn't mean the lucky ones that were there then. That means every new employee that starts, even today, they start getting some equity in the company, like a retirement program. Even the employees in Mexico, which means they're one of the only, if not the only US company in Mexico where the employees get to actually own a piece of the company. When you look at a Big Baby Taylor or some of the really entry level, although not super inexpensive, but not crazy expensive yet, Taylor guitars that are $499, $599, $799, I'd argue that guitar is one of the most ethically sourced, affordable instruments in the industry. Built by employees that actually have a stake in the company.
Here is a way that we can be competitive. We can make great guitars at an approachable enough price and know that we're doing good work with it and that no one's suffering because these guitars exist.
Right.
I guess that's one of the things that sometimes weighs on me is you look at anything, this mug, this old chisel, somebody had to make this somewhere. So ask yourself, who suffered? Who suffered so that this could exist?
Yeah.
I don't want to contribute to that wherever I'm able. So I want to build a guitar and go, if I could build this guitar with material that I know was harvested in a way that's beneficial to that region and the forest that it's coming from, if I can turn that into a guitar that's beneficial for all the employees, the folks who are tasked with executing this design, if that can be beneficial for the people who are putting that instrument into the hands of musicians, I'd like to think that the music that comes out of that guitar is just a little better than it would have otherwise been.
Between the 2 factories, they make about 700 guitars a day. Factories are closed for at least 2 weeks a year, plus holidays. That gives you an approximate number of 171,000 guitars a year. And it looks like, from what I can tell, 60 to almost 70% of those guitars are built in the Tecate factory, which makes sense based on price points. Most people are not buying $4,000 acoustics. Obviously, a lot of the more affordable acoustics are the majority of what they're building. There are some other things that are crazy. They haven't done a price increase at Taylor Guitars in 3 years. Just let that sink in for a second. Because if you sell your company and invest your employees in it, then you're going to find ways to keep your employees working because they're owners of your company. So when you have a slowdown, you don't get guitars. I said, what do? They actually at one point were making cutting boards and coasters, handles for buck knives, making cases for other companies. See, the way they explain it is,
there's a lot of risk that comes into every endeavor. But I would rather have raw material that I get to work with because I could change it. If I'm getting mahogany from Fiji, I know those folks, I know the forests, I know how the material gets harvested. It takes about 18 months, so about a year and a half from now. But with that piece of mahogany, I could change what I turn it into. So if we see musicians start liking guitars like this, or they want a guitar with a different voicing, or they want a guitar that looks different, okay, we can do that. I would rather live there than be predicting what finished thing I need to have imported.
And the reason I'm pointing all this out is, again, for one reason only, this is not what the industry says is normal. I was very impressed. I've always been a fan of Taylor guitars. Taylor guitars to me, like PRS guitars, in the idea that it's always been perfection in the idea of making the guitar play as amazing as it can. Obviously, they want it to sound beautiful. If you ever played a Taylor, you know what I'm talking about. They just play really, really well. I also like that they've improved their components and some of the technology in their guitars, again, over those last 3 years that have rolled out no price increases. The company is focused in a different way. See, it's not how does Taylor survive? How does Taylor investors get their dividends? It's how does this guitar company exist in the way that people love it for another 50 years?
Because here's a reality. Every single company will be sold.
Yeah.
It's sold on the day you die or sometime before death.
Right.
So it's sold by accident or on purpose. And so you have to plan for that. It can't just continue and like sail off into the sunset. You know, that doesn't happen like that. And so a long while back, all the way back in maybe 2013, we started planning for what would happen eventually to Taylor guitars. Looked at a lot of different scenarios. And then in 2020, so it was technically the last day of 2020, first day of 21, we executed a sale. But it's a different kind of a sale because it's not a different group of owners. It's actually a sale to something more like a family trust.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, that actually makes
So
sense.
we're an employee-owned company now.
So I gotta tell you, I was super impressed. And not my typical factory tour. I even looked up some of their reviews by employees on the job. And the complaints are there. They're not a lot. Currently, Taylor Guitars is running a 60 to 70% rate of employees being happy there, according to reviews by their employees. It's a very hard job. It's very hard on your body, because it is. Building guitars is a very hard job. Another thing that's interesting about Taylor Guitars is that they have a robot called Buffy the Robot that buffs the guitars.
But you're right. I mean, to your point, buffing is one of the most physically demanding aspects of guitar making. If I wish any player, any owner could have that experience of having to maneuver a guitar around a buffing wheel between the pressure, trying to maintain a consistent level of pressure. And then you have no flat surfaces. It's all curves, right? So you might be working around the hairpin turn of a cutaway. And so anytime we can take some of that really physically demanding stuff off people and involve robot.
Now, why that's important is they took the time to put a robot in place to take that job off someone's physical body, but yet some of the intricate inlay work, they still have that done by hand.
This is Ashley. Ashley's awesome. And Ashley is working on a Cort top guitar. So this is where we do the rosette work. So this is obviously the decorative ring that goes around the sound hole, but not only do we do the rosette, we'll do some of the other top inlay that we might do here. So that's got some really nice abalone trim.
Where I have seen factories now that have machines that can do that. So they want to keep the artistic part of the work still by hand, including hand pressing and frets still.
So this is a two-tone arbor press. So this is the way we've traditionally pressed frets into the guitar body, so further into the fretboards. So we've got, in this case, we've got a Koa series neck. We've slotted it. We've got our frets. And so we're going to set the frets up in that neck, and we're going to use the press, and we're going to do it by hand. Doing it manually, one of the things it allows us to do is feel when the frets are seated properly.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is the computer mill knows the proper depth to cut those slots. So that's all accurate.
They use Jesscar fret wire, which is some of my favorite fret wire. I'm not pointing out that they're perfect. I'm pointing out that they're leading, which is what we need in this industry, by trying to do the most ethical thing for the environment, for their employees. And I just thought I should take a minute and make a video about that. One last thing I learned is this little tidbit about finishes on acoustic guitars.
Everyone's concern with guitar finishes is how thin is it?
Right,
How light is it?
right.
Okay, well, so the UV finish can be put on really nicely and sanded down to whatever thickness you like. So like our 800 series has an average thickness of 3.5 mils.
Oh, yeah.
which is like half the thickness of a piece of paper.
So what about the claim that lacquer breathes?
They all breathe.
Okay, walk me through that.
They all breathe. If you took any of our gloss finishes in here and you put a high-powered microscope to it, there's holes in it, there's scratches in it. You just can't see it because your eye can't see that far down.
Okay.
Every finish is breathable. That's why humidity penetrates it. They all breathe. It doesn't matter if you painted the whole entire guitar inside and out, it's still gonna dry and it's still gonna swell up because air vapor, the water vapor in the air is gonna smaller than those holes and get in there. It's never solid.
So even like a thick polyurethane,
Yeah,
it essentially can breathe too.
yeah, absolutely.
But not nearly as much as, let's say, lacquer for whatever reason.
No, it's gonna do the same thing. The difference is it's about how thin do you want it. If you put a super thick polyurethane or polyester finish, I'm gonna choke the guitar because you've added so much weight to it. Okay, what you want is a thin finish to allow the guitar to move and breathe, to allow things to happen on the guitar. But lacquer never cures. So when you see people,
Well, that's why I think people say it breathes because it never really hardens completely.
no,
So
it just never cures.
Right.
So everything can touch it. Your pH can change what it's doing. You know, that's why gold tops turn green.
sure, yeah.
All that. But the UV being as thin as it is and chemicals can't hurt it, very few people's body's pH levels ever damage it.
The argument is that lacquer is a better finish.
So traditional guitars,
Okay.
they were lacquer. So that
because that's
is-
all I had.
Because that's all they had.
Right. Right. That's
Okay, so
okay.
so the traditionalist is going to say lacquer is the best finish because that was the original finishes, the conversion varnishes, that type of thing.
Right.
As technology advances, now you have polyurethane.
Right.
Put on well, it's an excellent finish.
Right.
Dipped, like you see from some import guitars, it's not a good finish.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to application and technique.
Right.
You put a very thin polyurethane finish on a guitar, it's going to be a really nice finish. It's not going to weight the guitar down. Same with polyester. So 6 mil lacquer finish is still 6 mils.
Right.
It's still the thickness of a piece of paper. Whether people say it's a better finish or not, it's still 6 mils of finish. You're still encasing that guitar.
And so when you say weight, you're dampening this.
Yes.
You're dampening the vibration.
Yes.
Because essentially it's a skittle now, right? You
Yeah.
know, yeah. M&M,
if you
right? You're
could,
candy
if you
coating
could
it.
take the finish off as a sheet,
Yeah.
you could put it on something and weigh it.
Oh.
And go, okay, that's what's sitting on the top of my guitar right now. People will go, if I add these giant pick guards, my guitar just goes kind of dead. It's like, well, yeah, because you just weighted it.
Right.
The top can't move anymore.
Right.
You added weights to it. So the thinner the finish, the better, but
Right.
you also want a durable finish at the
Right.
same time, especially if you're buying a $6,000 guitar.
Yeah, well, right. You'll go fish, right? We don't want it to die. Again, a cut above. All right. On that note, I want to thank you all for your time today. To the next time, know your gear.
A well-built guitar, well, it's going to outlast any of us. It's going to be able to make music for at least 100 years or more.